Monday Night Football. My Ravens at home in a blackout game against the Detroit Lions. Two cities, two franchises with so many similarities and a build-up like nothing we've seen so far this season. One will rise. One must fall. We're going to break down all the similarities and what to expect in this game that, understandably, is the game of the week. Ravens, Lions, Monday night. This is One Flock and I'm Rob Love. We're breaking it all down right now.
Let's go Ravens, let's go Ravens, let's go Ravens, let's go Ravens. We are one flock, we are one flock, we are one flock, we are one flock.
Hello and welcome back to One Flock. I'm Rob Love and it's good to have you here. If this is your first time joining us, we welcome you because this is where we're breaking down some of the top news in the NFL, featuring, of course, our Baltimore Ravens, who tonight on Monday night are squaring up against the Detroit Lions in a game that is truly something everyone has been looking forward to, and that includes us. You're stopping in for the first time, welcome. Please hit a like and subscribe if you haven't already. If you guys noticed, we're coming up on our first 1,000 subscribers, which is a huge, huge accomplishment. I think last time I looked, we're only like 30 or so away. That could be you. We appreciate you being here. Thank you. Please hit that notification bell, and we'll see you back for the next time. But right now, let's dig into it. We have the Baltimore Ravens and the Detroit Lions, two Super Bowl hopefuls, squaring off in this much anticipated game. And one of the things that cannot be denied, these are two franchises that are on similar tracks in recent years. Last year, the Detroit Lions, many thought would be a Super Bowl contender. The Ravens, many thought would be a Super Bowl contender. But for one reason or the other, neither was in the Super Bowl, and disappointment ended their season. This year, both of them started off the season the same way, with more disappointment. The Ravens, a very disappointing loss that I won't go back into because I'm still hurting over it. You saw my live from Vegas recap of what happened in the last 4 minutes of that game against Buffalo. We were beating them down. 15-point lead with 4 minutes left in the game, and the Ravens gave that game to the Buffalo Bills by shooting themselves in the foot. Meanwhile, across the water not too far away, the Detroit Lions are very disappointing coming out in their first game of the season, starting off the season 0-1 as well. However, both of these teams rebounded last week, and in week 2, absolutely thumped their opponent, who just so happened to feature, in both cases, somebody they were very familiar with. For the Detroit Lions, that was the Chicago Bears, whose new head coach is their former offensive coordinator. They hung 50 on the Chicago Bears and sent them packing back home. Meanwhile, the Ravens welcomed back the Cleveland Browns, led by a familiar face, Joe Flacco, who won a Super Bowl right here the last time we hoisted that Lombardi in 2012. And thumped him. Thumped him, sent them boys packing, hung 40 on them, and what Myles Garrett said was just embarrassing. And it was. Not for us, but definitely for the Cleveland Browns after all that smack talk they did the week before. So both of these franchises rebounded from a disappointing start to their season and are going to meet tonight, both 1-1, riding momentum of their first win. This is going to be an absolute crucial game for both of these teams for that reason. Momentum is something you can only claim if it's sustained. Having your first win last week in week 2 and doing anything but following it up with a week 3 victory would constitute tragedy and alarm for either one of these franchises who have their eyes set on the Super Bowl. Number 2 big similarity between these two teams. Both of these teams feature very high-powered offenses over the last 2 years. The Detroit Lions have featured the NFL's most impressive passing offense with over 270 yards passing per game. That's incredible. Meanwhile, the Baltimore Ravens, hands down the number 1 rushing offense in the league, 170 plus rushing yards per game over that same period. This is number one in passing and rushing, going head to head in this high octane contest that we're going to see tonight. Number three, and not to be understated, prime time quarterback play. Jared Goff with the Detroit Lions is a specialist from the pocket. This guy, if you give him time, can pick apart any secondary, can pick apart any defense, because the way he delivers the ball is with supreme talent and accuracy. He is the prototypical pocket passer, and he does it at a level that we have rarely seen. He is at the top of his game, and a very big reason why these Detroit Lions are for real. At the same time, across the way, Lamar Jackson, who just last week was recognized, forced to be recognized by a lot of his haters, not all, but we'll talk about that in another episode, as being the best overall quarterback in the game. He is not just the best quarterback in the game, the best player, as many of his contemporaries, players on the field, coaches on the field, will admit to. Lamar Jackson is the scariest player, the most powerful weapon that any football team could have. Why is that? Because his QBR rating for his career, meaning his efficiency as a passer of the ball, is the highest in history. In history, a 102.6. No one in the history of this game, this very illustrious game filled with so many great talents, has ever thrown the ball with the efficiency that Lamar Jackson has done in his career. And at the same time, no one has ever run the ball anywhere near the way he has run the ball. Lamar Jackson is approaching 7,000 yards rushing as a quarterback. It's unbelievable, the things that he can do with the ball. These two dynamic talents, Lamar Jackson with the Baltimore Ravens going up against Jared Goff with the Detroit Lions, gives us a third reason to be super excited about the high-octane offenses that are taking the field tonight. But that's not where it stops. The similarities do not stop there. Number four, this matchup features two of the best and most dynamic running backs in the game today, and maybe ever. Jahmyr Gibbs and Derrick Henry, the king, are going head-to-head in this same matchup. Jahmyr Gibbs, Derrick Henry, both 1,000-yard rushers last year. Jahmyr Gibbs, I think, came in at over 1,400 yards rushing. Derrick Henry, over 1,900 yards rushing. And these two backs, tied with another guy the Ravens faced off against in week one, Mr. Cook, with having 16 touchdowns last season. Those three backs all led the NFL last year. These guys know how to take the rock into the end zone and score points. They are something to be dealt with and can be used in so many different ways. Derrick Henry for the Ravens, Jahmyr Gibbs on the other side. This is going to be something to watch for, and not a moment of the running game is going to be boring in this contest. Either defense that goes to sleep against either one of these dudes is in trouble. Number five, the tight end room in both of these franchises is somewhere where you find exceptional talent. Mark Andrews for the Baltimore Ravens, though he has been a bit quiet this year simply due to usage, is Mark Andrews. Mark Andrews led all tight ends last year with more touchdowns than any tight end, and that's even with him starting off slow once again last year. We know what Mark Andrews has been in his career. He's one of the biggest names. He is the number one receiver of touchdowns in the Baltimore Ravens history, and he's a tight end. On the other side, Sam Laporta, my goodness, this tight end is a weapon. From the moment he hit the league, he's been on everybody's fantasy draft board in the first round, second round. Why? Because Sam Laporta has been nothing but dynamite. He is a scoring machine. He does everything you could ask of a tight end and some things you wouldn't even expect a tight end to do. These two guys are going to be dynamic. It could have been even more on the tight ends for the Ravens, but of course, we know injuries have plagued the Ravens and the tight ends, but we'll talk about that later. But even with those injuries, Mark Andrews, Sam Laporta, similarities again with the skill power coming from the tight end position. Number six, let's talk about wide receivers. For the first time that I can remember in recent history, the Baltimore Ravens are being lauded and applauded for their wide receiver room. We know for a long time the Detroit Lions have had big names like Megatron, right? When have the Baltimore Ravens ever been looked at and said, you got to watch out for their wide receivers? Well, I'll tell you when. Right now, today, in today's matchup, you're looking at two of the best wide receiver rooms in the country, and we're going to detail how that is. Check this out. For the Baltimore Ravens, you got Zay Flowers, a Pro Bowler from last year. This guy got more zip, zag, and speed than you can imagine. Zay Flowers in the slot is a scary, scary guy. He can be used in so many different ways. He has the shiftiness that we haven't seen very often from any receiver. The way he can just jiggle and wiggle, I don't even know what you want to call it, but the Zay shuffle is something that cornerbacks, safeties, they have problems trying to adjust to. This guy is a weapon, and understandably so, the nation has been put on notice. What's behind Zay Flowers? Rashad Bateman, a long throw threat for Lamar Jackson. Rashad Bateman's been averaging nearly 20 yards per reception. He is the deep threat guy. He has 4.3 speed. Yeah. And his separation numbers lead the country. Rashad Bateman is a weapon. Who do you have as your number 3 wide receiver? The world has got put on notice. D-Hop is back. I told you before the season started, when everybody was trying to say the D-Hop was washed, what did I tell you? I told you, DeAndre Hopkins is not Odell Beckham Jr. coming here after breaking every bone or tearing every ligament or whatever, all the injuries, the wash list, the laundry list of injuries that Odell Beckham had when he came in. We're talking about a DeAndre Hopkins that, yes, he's older, but he's still D-Hop. He hasn't had major injuries that have made him a shadow of the player that we've always known him to be. And what has he shown us in the first 2 weeks? Woo! Highlight after highlight. The man is special. It's DeAndre Hopkins. D-Hop is that man. There's your wide receiver room, and we haven't even gotten to Tylan Wallace and his amazing play so far through 2 weeks. Or Devontae, Tez. We gonna call him, what do we got to come up with a name for this dude. Every time he catches the ball, it's a touchdown. He's got 3 receptions, 3 touchdowns. Tez, touchdown Tez? Maybe that's what it is. I don't know. That's the wide receiver room for the Ravens. But not to be slept on, we got to jump right across the way to the Detroit Lions, who have a guy by the name of Amon-Ra St. Brown. This dude is one of the scariest slot receivers I've ever seen play. The man is special. He can do so many different things. Much like Zay Flowers, you can put Amon-Ra St. Brown in a lot of different scenarios, and he's going to make a play. But he is not the only scary thing in that wide receiver room. Jameis Williams, another very dangerous guy. Some people think the most dangerous deep threat in the NFL today because of his blazing speed. This guy, if you let him get past you, you're not catching him. Jameis Williams, one of the fastest players in the NFL, and he is one heck of a receiver. The Detroit Lions have him. And while we were talking about the one-handed crazy catches that our guy D-Hop has made a career out of making, there's a new kid on the block named Tesla. No, we're not talking about the car. There's a guy named Tesla, a rookie, that has been putting his own highlight reel together already with some crazy catches. And he, too, is in the Detroit Lions wide receiver room. These two groups, scary, scary, scary offensive players, and they're on different sides. The similarities, I told you, they're here, but we're not done. Number 7, the Swiss Army knives. Who am I talking about? You know who I'm talking about. The Ravens, Kyle Hamilton, and the Lions, Brian Branch. These safeties are two of the most incredible safeties in the game right now. They can do everything. You can line them up in any part of the field, and they have proven that they can wreck an offense just by their play. No matter whether you put them back in coverage, you bring them up close on the line, no matter where you put these guys, they impact the game at a high level. You don't believe me? Check out this statistic. This is something I looked up I thought was interesting. These two safeties are the only two players in the history of the NFL other than Ed Reed, okay? Ed Reed. You mention that name. If you're in the conversation with Ed Reed right away, you know what we're talking about. You're elite. They're the only two guys not named Ed Reed to ever do this. Listen to this. 15 tackles for loss, 5 picks, 3 forced fumbles, 3 sacks in their first 3 seasons. No other safety has ever done that other than Ed Reed and Kyle Hamilton and Brian Branch. And yes, these two guys are also in this game tonight. Kyle Hamilton, Brian Branch, wrecking. Oh, this is going to be amazing. But we're not done. The similarities haven't stopped yet. Let's go to number 8. How about injuries? Injuries are plaguing both of these teams, but eerily in some of the same areas. The Lions, Marcus Davenport and Aleem McNeil are both dealing with injuries and have robbed them of one of their best pass rushers with Davenport and their best interior rusher with McNeil. Meanwhile, the exact same loss has been experienced by the Baltimore Ravens, who have lost their number one edge rusher, Cal Van Noy, who last year had 12 sacks from the edge. And then, of course, surprisingly last week, Nnamdi Madubuike, the beast in the middle of that line, who is the number one threat for coming up the middle of that interior. Nnamdi Madubuike has been lost to a neck strain. So both of these teams are missing their number one edge rusher and their number one interior rusher for this matchup tonight. You thought I was playing when I said the similarities were stacking, but we're not done. Number 9, both of these teams have struggled at points on their offensive line, and that could loom big in tonight's matchup. The Baltimore Ravens, yes, they do have Ronnie Stanley, a former Pro Bowler, as well as the best center, I think, in the entire league with Tyler Linderbaum. However, who cares if you got a steel wall on the left side if you have an open door with a sheet for protection on the right side? I'm not saying that's what we have. I'm just saying if you look at the numbers, that's what the numbers say at times the Ravens have had on the right side of their line. Falele, the issues with him, the issues with Voorhees, the concerns there. You just need to look at the PFF numbers, which I will not look at right now, and where they rank in pass protection. That looms big when you are relying on these guys to protect your star quarterback, Lamar Jackson. At the same time, looking across the way for the Detroit Lions have not one, not two, but 3 newbies on their offensive line who are still trying to figure it out. You see why it hurts that we don't have Nnamdi Madubuike? If Nnamdi Madubuike was coming at these newbies, woo, watch out. But we don't have that tonight. So both of these offensive line potential woes loom big for both of these teams in tonight's matchup of the Ravens and the Lions. And that was number 9. But I told you I was giving you 10 similarities. So are you ready? This one here, number 10. Here we go. Both of these defenses feature absolute game records in the defense. For the Baltimore Ravens, nothing could be put more on display than what Roquan Smith did just last week in his return to greatness. And Roquan had in many people's minds become a shadow of himself prior to that performance. Last year came in looking out of shape, many said. His numbers took a dip. His aggressiveness, he didn't look like the same animal that showed up from the Bears in his first season with the Ravens that got all that money and that big contract. However, Roquan Smith reminded everybody last week after he got that pep talk from another great, another Baltimore legend, a terror in the backfield by the name of Ray. Yeah, Ray came in and gave Roquan a speech that I hope he gives him tonight. Because after that speech, Roquan did nothing short of 15 tackles, a fumble recovery for a touchdown, sacked the quarterback. He was everywhere. Even the interception by Nate Wiggins was off a play that Flacco was forced to put because he was pressured by Roquan. Whew. Roquan. We need that Roquan tonight. But guess what? Just like we're hoping that Roquan shows up tonight, the Detroit Lions are hoping that Aiden Hutchinson, the terror, the defensive end who has plagued quarterback after quarterback, remains the form that he took back. Because remember, last year, Aiden Hutchinson had an injury that took him out of the game for the Detroit Lions. He hadn't been himself. He didn't look like himself in his first game back. But last week, what they saw from the Detroit Lions, you want me to tell you what they saw? Let me give you the stats. Let's see. Aiden Hutchinson, 2 sacks, 3 quarterback hits. That's in one game last week. He's back. Aiden Hutchinson doing his thing. These two guys are absolute game impactors. They are legends at their position. And tonight, they are lining up on opposite sides of this Monday night showdown, and we should be excited to see what happens. But as we said before, these 10 similarities, as much as they show how evenly matched in so many different ways these two powerhouse teams could be, one from the AFC with our Ravens, from the NFC with the Detroit Lions, the truth is only one team can win. Despite all the similarities, one team will rise and one team must fall. And that fall will be a hard fall to take in week 3 of this season, because when you're talking about Super Bowl contenders, starting a season off 1-2 is a long trip to come back for in a 17-game season. It's not the end of a season, but the implications as you go through your division, starting off 1-2, if you're a Super Bowl contender, those implications can loom big. But a 2-1, that doesn't sound so bad. You can get a good run going. This is a big game for both these teams. Expect a very emotional, a very passionate game. That's why tonight, the blackout, no wonder the Ravens made it a blackout. This is a home game on prime time. It's going to be crazy in M&T. And everybody I know is going to be excited, including me. But right now, let's talk about something. And I want you to stick around because in a second, I think the number one thing that has to do with how this game, and not just this game, but the Ravens Super Bowl hopes for the season. This is going to upset a lot of people. Other people may agree, but we're going to get into this. But John Harbaugh is going to have a lot to do with how well not just tonight goes, but any hope for a Super Bowl that the Ravens have. We'll touch on that in a minute. Let's talk about some of the key things right now, though, the reasons why I think that the Ravens should win this game in spite of all these similarities. And here's what they are. Aside from the fact that history says the Ravens should win this game, why do I say that? These two teams have met 7 times. The Ravens are on a 5-game winning streak. Their record against the Detroit Lions is 5-2, and those 5 have all come in a row. They are on a 5-game winning streak. It's been a long time since the Detroit Lions have beat the Baltimore Ravens. Lamar Jackson himself has absolutely torched the Detroit Lions whenever he's come up against them. History tells us that this is a game that the Baltimore Ravens should win. His record against the NFC, he's only had 2 losses. I believe his record is 24-2. So if we want to look at the historical numbers, the odds say the Ravens should win this game because of Lamar Jackson and his history, not just against the NFC, but also specifically against the Detroit Lions. But what worries me, in spite of those numbers about tonight? Well, let's be real. The offensive line is a concern for me. Lamar Jackson, we know that they're going to be targeting him just like every defense. What they've done all week is sit in, study film, and try to scheme up how they're going to bring pressure to Lamar Jackson, how they're going to try to take him down. And though no player would tell you this, they are trying to get him down and take him out. That's what they're trying to do, because that's their best chance of beating the Ravens, is if Lamar Jackson is not up under center. That being the case, this offensive line, the right side, concerns me. We really need to. It's very important. It's crucial that Daniel Falele and Voorhees show us something tonight against this competition that makes us feel good about the decision that this coaching staff has made to keep them as the undisputed starters on the offensive line. They need to step up tonight and show what that confidence came from. That's a huge concern. What else? I'm very interested to see how the Ravens respond as far as establishing the run. It's super important in a game like this to establish the run so that you can control the clock. You can control the time of possession, because whoever controls time of possession in this game has a very big plus on their opponent. Again, we're talking about the number 1 passing offense, the number 1 rushing offense. You give either one of these guys, either one of these offenses the ball and let them run for a while, it's going to be a long day for you. So the best thing you can do is keep their offense sitting on the side watching. And how do you do that? Time of possession. The Ravens should be set up to do a better job with this, because running the ball takes more time off the clock, and that is a strength of the Ravens. However, not to be denied, remember, Jahmyr Gibbs and those boys over there, David Montgomery, the Detroit Lions have no problem running the ball. They lean on the run a lot. So it's very important for the Baltimore Ravens in this game to seize control of the running game. Derrick Henry, in his last showing, we know the Cleveland Browns sold out to stop Derrick Henry. And it looked like they did. And 23 yards, I think, is what he had on 11 carries, something like that. We need to see a bounce back game from Derrick Henry. But more important than even just those yards, we need to see Derrick Henry and his ball security, because he fumbled last week. Didn't cost us like it did in week 1 when he fumbled the ball against the Bills. That one was, and he owned it. He owned it. Derrick Henry will get it right. But it's important that tonight he gets it right. If we establish the running game, get Derrick Henry going again, get that line, and that's going to be a little bit harder because, again, we don't have Ricard. Patrick Ricard is still hurt. I'm concerned about that. We know when we hear about calf issues and they prolong themselves, a lot of times those turn into Achilles issues, and maybe that's what the Ravens are trying to avoid by giving him extra time. But without Ricard, who played such a big role in blocking and opening up our run game on that side of the line, it's a lot more challenging for Voorhees and Falele, who haven't shown themselves to be as mobile, to open up those holes. But we need that to happen. The running game needs to be established. What else am I concerned about? Our secondary. Our secondary has been banged up. Jair Alexander's been banged up with the knee. Marlon Humphrey, he was on the injury report a little while. And we know he's got a huge matchup, a historic matchup we always look forward to seeing with him and Amon-Ra St. Brown going together across that slot position. And then even Wiggins. Wiggins got hurt and was on the injury report. Now, I understand that Humphrey and Wiggins are expected to play today, but hopefully those guys are not limited from whatever the nature of their injuries were that had them on the report. This is the best wide receiver room that they have faced so far this year. And we're going to need big play. Big play. Because I already told you, Jameis Williams, you give that guy space, he's gone. He's a bullet. If you can't stay with him, if you lose him, he's gone. He's lost. And points are going on the board. Amon-Ra St. Brown, dangerous. So we're going to need to hopefully see something like the normal play of our very talented and skilled secondary in this game. Hopefully they're not too banged up. What else am I concerned about? Well, the defense's ability to force turnovers. Now, on the encouraging point, after all that talk in the offseason, how the defense was focusing on getting the ball, because in the playoffs, we've proven to be one of the worst teams. Oddly enough, this Ravens defense has become one of the worst teams in the NFL in big-time games at getting possessions for the offense, turning over the other team. We're one of the last-place teams in the playoffs over the last several years. Because of that, we heard all offseason, Roquan, all the guys on defense talking about, the coaches, Zach Orr. This has been a focus of the defense. We saw it in the preseason, the turnovers that they got. But against the Bills, once again, it wasn't there. Well, last week against the Cleveland Browns, we saw a fumble, recovered for a touchdown. Roquan ran that one back. Nate Wiggins got the interception and got ran down by some guys that shouldn't have run him down. I don't know how that happened. But both of them led to points. And we had 2 turnovers. That's huge. That's huge. We can't see more of this thing like we saw against the Buffalo Bills, where interceptions that Josh Allen should already have on his record, we dropped. And we got, and then they end up, off our fingertips to somebody else. We got to stop doing that stuff. And we even did some of that last week. So really, I'm concerned about whether this defense is able to get the turnovers. Because when you're playing a high-octane offense like the Detroit Lions, anytime the defense can take the ball away from them and keep them from scoring and give it back to our high-octane offense, that's key. This is going to loom big in this game. And finally, this is the biggest one. And this is the one I've been telling you for the Baltimore Ravens. And I'm going to say this. For those of you who get upset, I'm not apologizing. Because I'm not a John Harbaugh hater. I think John Harbaugh has proven what he is. He's one of the greatest coaches that the game has seen. That's why his resume and his tenure has been what it has been. However, that being said, there's no perfect people walking on this planet, and John Harbaugh will tell you himself he's not perfect. Right now, John Harbaugh is facing a personal growth need that if he doesn't face it the right way, it will cost the Baltimore Ravens any hope of a Super Bowl. It will cost Lamar Jackson and Derrick Henry what they should be hoisting this year. And what is that? It's John Harbaugh's decision-making. Too many times we've settled for field goals inside the 2-yard line. And for no reason other than John Harbaugh has made the wrong call. John Harbaugh has missed far too many chances when the game was cooking, the offense was cooking, and he, through his decisions on how to handle those first and goal situations from the 1, first and goal from the 2. And tonight, we've got to hope that John Harbaugh is able to trust his stars and not his habits. Habits, I say. What do you mean habits, Rob? What are you talking about? Well, John Harbaugh has shown us who he is. And one of his habits, when he gets into a situation where, well, I'm not even going to tell you. Let's look at it. You guys want to see this? This should look familiar. I can't show you the whole thing, but we don't want to get in trouble. This is the divisional round playoff game from last year. You may recall Lamar Jackson had just thrown a beautiful bomb to Rashad Bateman, who got tackled at the 2-yard line. Ravens are set up first and goal from the 2. It's going to be 6, right? It's going to be 6, right? Oh, it was going to be 6. Then the Harbaugh habit happened. Derrick Henry didn't make it on the first run on first down. So on second down, here comes Harbaugh.
Second and goal, 3 yards out. Lamar keeps it, looks, wanting to take off, and he is sacked back at the 8-yard line. Greg Rousseau.
They were trying to sell Derrick Henry all day. We're going to give it to him. Buffalo does not fall for it. And you see just the effort and commitment by this front 4 continuing, and that's who's got to win if they want to have a chance.
They had first and goal from the 2. Now it's third and goal back at the 8.
Think you should have given that one to Henry?
Yeah.
Get too cute sometimes.
Still not convinced that's a Harbaugh habit? Well, how about that same game when the Ravens managed to pull back within striking distance after another great drive where this time Lamar Jackson orchestrated a drive where he only threw one pass. It was a beautiful pass. But 68 of the yards came on the ground where the Ravens, between Justice Hill and Derrick Henry, were averaging over 15 yards a carry. Got the touchdown. We're only down by 2. Needed a 2-point conversion to tie the game. So they go for it. Great decision, Harbaugh. But then the Harbaugh habit hit. Let's watch.
Oh, boy, they looked unstoppable on the ground. They just rushed for 68 yards on that drive to the end zone. And now a 2-point conversion attempt away from tying the game.
I want you to watch right here. Watch the outstanding job. You push, and then you come off. Rosengarten, awesome job. Ricard did a great job as well there, going for 2.
Yep, one play that can tie it if you make it with 1:37 to go in the 3rd.
They're starting to show it, imposing their will here. As soon as they do that, then Lamar keeps it.
Going to take it out of the gun and send Henry out of the backfield as he looks for the tie. Flicks it. It got tipped. Incomplete, and the Bills still cling to a lead.
The Ravens had just ran 68 yards down the field. The Buffalo Bills, I remember watching it. The defense was leaned over, puffing, big clouds of mist outside every single one of their helmets. They were exhausted. 2-point conversion. You got the number 1 rushing offense in the country. And your running backs are averaging 17 yards a carry, and you need a 2-point conversion, and you pass it. You know, the difference between a Super Bowl Ravens team and a team that seems to always underwhelm is the coaching, and here's why I say that. You know, there's a team down the road called the Philadelphia Eagles, not too far from Baltimore. Sirianni is the reigning Super Bowl champion with the Philadelphia Eagles, not because they have so much more talent than the Ravens. The Ravens was expected last year to win, not the Eagles. The Super Bowl was expected to be a showdown between the Ravens and the Eagles, a bird bowl. The Ravens weren't there because of decisions like that. Like what you just saw Harbaugh do, the Harbaugh habit. When you're in these scoring situations, when you're in critical moments, and he makes a cute decision, as Romo said, got too cute. Instead of going for what you know, the highest percentage chance of putting points on the board. First and goal, second and goal. Does anybody think the Philadelphia Eagles are not going to score? In fact, everybody knows what they're going to do before they do it. It's the tush push. Everybody knows what they're going to do, but as one coach said, if you know what we're going to do, so what? Stop us. The Ravens don't do that. The Ravens have their own version of the tush push. We've seen it. It's never been stopped, where they would put Mark Andrews under center and get that yard. If you've got first and goal, there is no excuse with this team for not getting 6. Yet Harbaugh, time and time again, because he's a prisoner of his habit. Rather than going, you know what? I've been here before. I was here twice in the division round against the Buffalo Bills. I was here last week against the Browns. Maybe I need to change my habits. See, old people, we get set in their ways. They'll tell you that. I'm old and set in my ways. Harbaugh, we don't need you to be set in your ways. We need you to adapt and change what you've been doing that has not been working. We need you to look at it and say, if I've got a play that cannot be stopped in these short yardage, first and goal, second and goal situations, why am I not using it? Why am I getting cute? If Harbaugh can get through that growth, not only do the Ravens win tonight, the Ravens are hoisting the Lombardi trophy that Lamar Jackson and this team are due. But right now it's getting close to game time, which means we got to get off of here. But before we get off of here, what do you guys think? I know what you want to know. You want to know what my prediction is. Well, here it is. It's a tale of two cities. It's two teams built similarly. Two teams that are hard and talented. Two cities with a fan base that is rabid and ready to win, with the Super Bowl all up in here. But who's going to win tonight? Who will rise? And who will fall? My prediction is Ravens rise tonight in a big way. I do think that Roquan Smith has this defense ready to rally. And I think that as a result, we do get at least one turnover, put some pressure on Goff. I think Mike Green has a big game tonight, a big coming out party, and introduces himself to the NFL. And I think that as a result, they're able to wreak some havoc on that young offensive line that's in front of Jared Goff. And because he's not mobile, we will get at least one turnover. Final score, points, a lot of them are going to get scored, but the final score will be Ravens becoming the first team in NFL history to open a season with 3 games with over 40 points. Ravens 42, Detroit Lions 24. That's my prediction. But what's yours? What do you think? You think I've lost it? Well, we won't have to think for long. Put your predicted score in the comments right now. And again, if you haven't already liked and subscribed, go ahead, like and subscribe. We'll be back after this game is over to talk about what happened. But for now, I got to go get my popcorn. I got to go get, the beer out the fridge. We ain't drinking beer tonight. We drinking bourbon tonight. It's going to be a bourbon night. But I'm going to get to that. I want to say thank you to you guys for tuning in. Happy Monday Night Football to you. We'll see you back after the game. I'm your host, Rob Love. It won't be right after the game. I'm going to sleep, after the bourbon and all that in the game. But we'll be back. We'll talk about the game tomorrow. For One Flock, I'm your host, Rob Love. Remember, if there's one thing this world will never be too full of, that thing is love. Find somebody that needs a little bit more love in their life and love on them, because that's always the thing. This is Monday Night Football. This is Porter. Time to fly, y'all. Go.
We take the field as one flock. Like no Ravens, here we go as one block. We keep grinding till we soar to the top. Come on, Ravens, here we go as one block. We keep grinding till we soar to the top. Let's go, Ravens, let's go.